Yeah, Aaron, we were watching the UGA Auburn game as well in the evening. Like? I know the what was it? The 2 minute warning lasted like an hour. Like, what was going on in that game?
Yeah. So like you said, that there was 2 minutes left in the first half, and it spread across a span of, I think they clocked it at 31 minutes exactly, right? This was due to an egregious amount of momentum stops and reviews by the officiating staff of the game, right? Was
Yeah,
all this stoppage valid? That's the question at hand. Um, you know, Depending on which side of the fan bases you were on, you could say it was, or you could say, we got robbed, right?
yeah,
If you're on the Auburn side, you saw, head coach Hugh Freeze and the athletic director John Cohen giving officials a real piece of their mind at walking into the locker room at halftime. There were so many plays that were so controversial during this game. The first one I want to talk about is the tush push, right? Auburn's tush push. They're up 10-0, having a chance to make the game 17-0 on the 1 yard line. And, the ball's punched out. They ruled a fumble, but they stopped the play at the 1 yard line when the
yeah,
Georgia defender is like literally running into the end zone for a scoop of
yeah.
score.
He never touched the ground. They didn't call it
Yeah.
dead. So you can't have it both ways. Either call it a touchdown or call it a UGA scoop and score. It can't be what the end result was, right?
Exactly, and so I'm so accustomed to officiating crews. If a fumble does happen, you let it play out, and then you go back to the review, and you make the objective evidence call. But it was so weird to see them mark it as a fumble and not acknowledge there's a player running down the sideline, and I don't know if I heard a whistle being blown, to be honest.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so Georgia, they get the ball now. It's 10-0 still, but instead of, Auburn having the ball that close in the end zone, Georgia's driving down the field. And there are some controversial plays. You had the targeting play um by the safety, I think it was Kenyon Lee. Um I think that play was one of the plays that was initially being reviewed because of a pass completion.
Right.
Um
Yep. I
and
think it was Kobe
so
Young on the side. They were checking his toes, but then they were like, "Oh wait, targeting."
Exactly. And then you had the roughing the passer, Williams. He was about to sack Gunnar Stockton, and then they said, "Wait a minute, the way
He pulled
he's
him down. He pulled
throwing
him down. Yeah.
him down, exactly." And then after the second half, you have the Kirby Smart controversial call where he's saying, "No, I'm clapping my hands, I'm clapping my hands." They initially
I,
call a timeout, and then they say, "Oh wait, no, I'm clapping my hands." He's like, "Okay, Georgia's not charged with the timeout."
so I actually saw some more on that on social media, and they did a little bit more investigative work, a lot more than the commentators were doing, obviously. But he did call a timeout, but he was saying that Auburn was clapping their hands, which they're not allowed to do on defense, to try and get the
Oh,
offense to
to
go
uh,
false start. So there, because of what we were seeing, all of this, and what Greg McElroy and what the other guy was saying on the as the commentators, it kind of like confused a lot of people. So that's kind of what's going on. Yeah,
fair, fair, fair.
just want to be fair and
Nonetheless,
unbiased.
nonetheless, right? The list can go on and on of all the stoppage we saw and all the penalties we saw yesterday. I think there was a total of 17 penalties that added that significant delay. It makes you wonder, what kind of conversations went on while they were reviewing and talking to the guys up in the booth. Again, the insight that we saw in the ACC's matchup of Virginia and Florida State was, uncanny, right? I mean, maybe the SEC should do this in one of their big games when every call matters like that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would love it, but knowing the SEC as much as we do, we doubt that's going to happen, right? It makes for good television, in my opinion. So why not, do it? But maybe they're trying to protect the sanctity of refereeing. I don't know, but it is nice to be able to watch like those ACC games and they let us know what's going on, like from a knowledge perspective, right? But looking at the referees, they saw what kind of powdered keg of a stadium that they were in at that time. Maybe they felt like oh, maybe we didn't get the right play on the whole fumble thing, and so now they're trying to be extra careful, which is what led to that those last 2 minutes to take so long. I don't know, but yeah, it's crazy to see the discrepancy between how the ACC approaches refereeing and officiating, and SEC sticking to whatever black box that they got going on.
Yep. Nonetheless, Georgia was able to get out of there with a 20-10 win. You could say the momentum shifter was the tush push, because you
For
saw the
sure. The
the
yardage.
dramatic
Yep.
yardage. Um, and sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles in terms of winning a game.